Elgin is a former cathedral city in Royal Burgh in Moray, Scotland. It is the administrative and commercial centre for Moray. The town originated to the south of the River Lossie on the higher ground above the floodplain. Elgin is first documented in the Cartulary of Moray in 1190 AD. It was created a royal borough in the 12th century by King David I of Scotland, and by the time he had a castle on top of the present-day Lady Hill to the west of the town. History. In August 1040, Macbeth's army defeated and killed Duncan I at Bodganovan, near Elgin. Elgin is first recorded in a charter of David I in 1151, in which he granted an annuity to the priory of Urquhart. David had made Elgin a royal borough around 1130, after his defeat of Oengus of Moray. During David's reign the castle was established at the top of what is now Lady Hill. The town received a royal charter from Alexander II in 1224 when he granted the land for a new cathedral to Andrew, Bishop of Moray. This finally settled the episcopal see, which had been at various times at Caneda, Burney and Spiney. Elgin was a popular residence for the early Scottish monarchs. David I, William I, Alexander II and Alexander III all held court there and hunted in the royal forests. Of these kings, Alexander II was Elgin's greatest benefactor and returned many times to his royal castle. He established the two religious houses of the town. The Dominicans are Blackfriars in the west side and the Franciscans are Greyfriars in the east. Further to the east stood the Hospital of Maison-Dieu, or House of God, also founded during the reign of Alexander II for the reception of poor men and women. On the 19th of July 1224, the foundation stone of the new Elgin Cathedral was ceremoniously laid. The cathedral was completed sometime after 1242, but was completely destroyed by fire in 1270. The reasons for this are unrecorded. The buildings which now remain as ruins date from the reconstruction following that fire. The Cartulary of Moray described the completed cathedral as mirror of the country and the glory of the kingdom. Edward I of England travelled twice to Elgin. During his first visit in 1296 he was impressed by what he saw. Preserved in the Cotton Library, now held in the British Library, is the journal of his stay, describing the castle and the town of Elgin as Bonchastral et Bonville, good castle and good town. By his second visit in September 1303, the castle's wooden interior had been burned while held by the English governor Henry de Rye. As a result, he only stayed in Elgin for 2 days and then camped at Kinloss Abbey from the 13th of September until the 4th of October. King Edward was furious when David de Moravia, Bishop of Moray, joined Scotland's cause with Bruce, and Edward appealed to the Pope, who excommunicated the bishop, thus removing papal protection, causing him to flee to Orkney, then to Norway, only to return after Robert Bruce's victories against the English. After Edward's death in July 1307, Robert the Bruce retook Scotland in 1308, slighting castles to keep them out of English hands. David de Moravia, the Bishop of Moray, at the head of his army, joined with Bruce and they slighted the castles of Inverness and Erne and Forres before seizing and slighting Caneda Castle, which also housed English soldiers. He attacked Elgin Castle, to be twice repulsed before finally succeeding. In August 1370, Alexander Burr, Bishop of Moray, began payments to Alexander Stuart, Wolf of Badenoch, King Robert III's brother, for the protection of his lands and men. In February 1390, the bishop then turned to Thomas Dunbar, son of the Earl of Moray, to provide the protection. This action infuriated Stuart, and in May he descended from his castle on an island in Loch Norb and burned the town of Forres in revenge. In June he burned much of Elgin, including 2 monasteries, St. Giles Church, the Hospital of Maison-Dieu and the Cathedral. Andrew of Wintoun's original Chronicle of Scotland described this action by wild, white Eland men. The rebuilding of the cathedral took many years, but much of it has since crumbled away due to the inferior quality of the stone made available to the 15th and 16th century masons, while the 13th century construction still remains. In 1506, the great central tower collapsed, and although rebuilding work began the next year, it was not completed till 1538. For the Reformation to the 18th century, the citizens of Elgin and surrounding areas did not seem to object to the new religion following the Reformation. In 1568, the lead was stripped from the roof of the cathedral by order of the Privy Council of Scotland. The lead was to be sold and the proceeds to go to the maintenance of Regent Murray soldiers. But the ship taking the lead cargo to Holland sank almost immediately on leaving Aberdeen harbour. Without this protection, the building began to deteriorate. In 1637, the rafters over the choir were blown down, and in 1640 the minister of St. Giles, along with the Laird of Innis and Alexander Brodie of Brodie, all ardent Covenanters, removed and destroyed the ornately carved screen and woodwork that had remained intact. The tracery of the west window was destroyed sometime between 1650 and 1660 by Cromwell's soldiers. On Easter Sunday 1711, the central tower collapsed for the second time in its history, but caused much more damage. The rubble was quarried for various projects in the vicinity until 1807, when, through the efforts of Joseph King of Newmill, a wall was built around the cathedral and a keeper's house erected. Mountains of this rubble were cleared by one John Shanks, enabling visitors to view the ornate stone masonry. John was presented with an ornate snuff box by the authorities. It is now in Elgin Museum. He is also honoured with a large tombstone in the Eastern Cathedral precincts. When Daniel Defoe toured Scotland in 1717, he visited Elgin and said, "In this rich country is the city, or town rather, of Elgin. I say city, because in Antient time the monks claimed it for a city, and the cathedral shows, by its ruins, that it was a place of great magnificence. Nor must it be wondered at, if in so pleasant, so rich, and so agreeable a part of the country, all the rest being so differing from it, the clergy should seat themselves in a proportioned number, seeing we must do them the justice to say, that if there is any place richer and more fruitful and pleasant than another, they seldom fail to find it out. As the country is rich and pleasant, so here are a great many rich inhabitants, and in the town of Elgin in particular, for the gentlemen, as if this was the Edinburgh, or the court, for this part of the island, leave the Highland habitations in the winter and come and live here for the diversion of the place and plenty of provisions, and there is, on this account, a great variety of gentlemen for society, and that of all parties and of all opinions. This makes Elgin a very agreeable place to live in, notwithstanding its distance, being above 450 measured miles from London, and more, if we must go by Edinburgh. Unquestionably, the cathedral was, and still is, a magnificent building, worthy of its description as the Lantern of the North. When Bishop Burr wrote to King Robert III, complaining of the wanton destruction done to the building by the king's brother, the Wolf of Badenoch, he describes the cathedral as the ornament of this district, the glory of the kingdom, and the admiration of foreigners. Chambers, in his picture of Scotland, says, "It is an allowed fact, which the ruins seem still to attest, that this was by far the most splendid specimen of ecclesiastical architecture in Scotland, the Abbey Church of Melrose not excepted. It must be acknowledged that the edifice last mentioned is a wonderful instance instance of symmetry and elaborate decoration, yet in extent, in loftiness, in impressive magnificence, and even in minute decoration, Elgin has been manifestly superior. Enough still remains to impress the solitary traveller with a sense of admiration mixed with astonishment. Lachlan Shaw, in his History of the Province of Moray, was equally impressed when he read the church, when entire, was a building of Gothic architecture inferior to few in Europe. Prince Charles Edward Stuart travelled to Elgin from Inverness in March 1746 and, falling ill with a feverish cold, stayed for 11 days before returning to await the arrival of the King's army. He stayed in Elgin with Mrs. Anderson, a passionate Jacobite, at Thunderton House. She kept the sheets that the prince slept on and was buried in them a quarter of a century later. The Duke of Cumberland passed through the town on the 13th of April, camping at Alves on the way to meet the prince in battle on Drumsea Muir. After the battle, William Boyd, 4th Earl of Kilmarnock, one of the prince's generals, was captured and taken to London and eventual execution. But he read to his friend from prison about his indebtedness to the shoemakers of Elgin. Beside my personal debts mentioned in general and particular in the state, there is one for which I am liable in justice, if it is not paid, owing to poor people who gave the work for it by my orders. It was at Elgin in Moray. The regiment I commanded wanted shoes. I commissioned something about 70 pair of shoes and brogues, which might come to 3 shillings and sixpence each, one with the other. The magistrates divided them among the shoemakers of the town and country, and each shoemaker furnished his proportion. I drew on the town for the price out of the composition laid on them, but I was afterwards told at Inverness that, it was believed, the composition was otherwise supplied, and the poor shoemakers not paid. As these poor people wrought by my orders, it will be a great ease to my heart to think they are not to lose by me, as too many have done in the course of that year. But had I lived I might have made some inquiry after, but now it is impossible, as the hardships in loss of horses and such things, which happened through my soldiers, are so interwoven with what was done by other people, that it would be very hard, if not impossible, to separate them. If you'll write to Mr. Innes of Dalkinty at Elgin, he will send you an account of the shoes, and if they were paid to the shoemakers or no, and if they're not, I beg you'll get my wife, or my successors, to pay them when they can. 19th century. In the 19th century, the old medieval town of Elgin was swept away. The first major addition to the town centre was the Assembly Rooms, built in 1821 by the Trinity Lodge of Freemasons, at the corner of High Street and North Street. In 1819, Dr. Gray's Hospital was built on unused ground. The building has imposing columns and distinctive dome. Dr. Alexander Gray, a doctor who worked for and made his fortune with the East India Company, endowed £26,000 for the hospital. In 1828, the new parish church of St. Giles was built at a cost of £10,000. Lt. General Andrew Anderson, born in Elgin, also of the East India Company, died in 1824 and bequeathed £70,000 to the town to found an institution for the welfare of the elderly poor and for the education of orphans. The Anderson Institute was built in the east end of the town in 1832 with accommodation for 50 children and 10 elderly people. The borough courthouse was built in 1841, the museum in 1842, and the county buildings in 1866. The Morayshire Railway was officially opened in ceremonies at Elgin and Lossiemouth on the 10th of August 1852, the steam engines having been delivered to Lossiemouth by sea. It was the first railway north of Aberdeen and initially ran only 5.5 miles between Elgin and Lossiemouth. It was later extended south to Craigellachie. The Great North of Scotland Railway took over the working of the line in 1863 and bought a company in 1881 following the Morayshire Railways return to solvency from crippling debt. The railway and Lossiemouth harbour became very important to Elgin's economy. The town was becoming prosperous, and by 1882 it had a head post office with a savings bank, insurance and telegraph departments, and branches of the Bank of Scotland and the British Linen Company, Caledonian, Commercial, North of Scotland, Royal and Union Banks, and the National Securities Savings Bank, offices or agencies of 48 insurance companies, 5 hotels and a newspaper. It was not until the 20th century, however, that the separate villages of Bishop Mill and New Elgin would be incorporated into the town. Geography and geology. The modern town straddles the River Lossie, with the suburbs of Bishop Mill to the north and New Elgin to the south. Permo-Triassic rocks, rare in Scotland, are commonly found around Elgin. These are composed of Aeolian sandstone formed when this area was subjected to desert conditions. Quarry Wood, on the town's edge, has a formation nicknamed Cutty's Hillock which produced the internationally known fossils called the Elgin reptiles. In the Elgin district, boulders belonging to the lowest group of Jurassic strata, Oxford clay and chalk, are found both in glacial deposits and on the surface of the ground. The largest of these deposits is at Linksfield, where limestone and shale lie on boulder clay. There is a large hill in downtown Elgin, often viewed as the highlight of the Elgin Tourist Trail. Climate. Elgin's climate is temperate maritime, with cool summers and relatively mild winters due to its proximity to the sea. Rainfall is quite low as it is in the rain shadow of mountains to the west and southwest. Demography. Source: Moray Council from 2001 census data. Elgin's population in 1901 was 8,460. Economy. The Elgin, Forres, Lossiemouth triangle is heavily dependent on Royal Air Force stations for employment of civilians. In 2005, RAF Lossiemouth along with its neighbour Cartulary contributed £156.5 million to the Moray economy, of which £76.6 million was retained and spent locally. The bases provide, directly or indirectly, 21% of all employment in the area, although in 2010 the closure of RAF Cartulary had significant effect on these numbers. Aware of the impact that the Air Force has on the area's economy, the local population instigated a long campaign to save RAF Lossiemouth, the future of which was also in doubt. How much of an influence this had upon the government's and Ministry of Defence's final decision is uncertain, but the base was ultimately saved and RAF Lucas instead faced the axe as part of the same strategic defense and security review. RAF Lucas will now become, like RAF Cartulary, an army base. Other areas offering significant employment are local authority, construction and real estate, food and drink, tourism, transport, business services and wholesale retail. In a recent study, Elgin was shown to be one of the most expensive towns in which to buy property in Scotland. Politics. National governments. Elgin is in the Moray constituency of the United Kingdom Parliament, which returns a Member of Parliament to the House of Commons at Westminster. Elgin is in the Moray constituency of the Scottish Parliament, which has slightly different boundaries to the UK Parliament constituency of the same name. The constituency returns a member of the Scottish Parliament to Holyrood and is part of the Highlands and Islands electoral region. Local government. See also List of Provosts of Elgin. See also Moray Council election 2007. Following the reorganisation of local government in Scotland, Elgin now has 2 multi-member wards, each with 3 councillors. These wards are Elgin North and Elgin South. Transport. Elgin is situated on the A96 trunk route which connects the cities of Aberdeen and Inverness. Heavy traffic through the town causes serious congestion. Scottish Transport Minister Tavish Scott visited the town in August 2006 to look at the traffic management problems and to meet campaigners for a bypass. It is estimated that a bypass would remove about 1/3 of traffic from Elgin's streets. The A941 runs from a Lossie mouth through Elgin to Rothes, Craigellachie, Dufftown and Rhynie. Elgin railway station is operated by Abellio ScotRail. The railway also connects to Aberdeen and Inverness, which have trains to other UK destinations. Elgin's bus station is operated mainly by Stagecoach, and provides services within Elgin and to other local towns as well as to Aberdeen and Inverness. There is a jet bus service which runs to the Inverness airport at Dalcross. Inverness has flights to mainly UK destinations, while Aberdeen Airport has UK and international flights. Education. Nursery schools are Childcare Most Awi, Jack N. Jill Preschool Centre, Kinder House, 22 Warden Place, New Elgin. Moray Leisure Centre Preschool Nursery, Borough Briggs Road, Elgin. Magic Roundabout Preschool Nursery, Thornhill Drive, Elgin. St Sylvester's Nursery Primary Schools, Bishop Mill Primary School, Morriston Road, Bishop Mill. East End Primary School, Institution Road. Greenwoods Primary School, Edgar Road, New Elgin. New Elgin Primary School, Bezac Street, New Elgin. Seafield Primary School, Deanshaw Terrace, Bishop Mill. West End Primary School, Main Road. St Sylvester's RC Primary School, Abbey Street. Secondary schools, Elgin Academy, Morriston Road, Bishop Mill. Elgin High School Drive, New Elgin. Gordonston School, Duffus, near Elgin. Further education, Moray College, Moray Street, Elgin, Moray. Community care. Hospitals, Dr. Gray's Hospital. Health centres, the Mary Hill Health Centre. Linkwood Medical at the Glass Green Centre. Elgin Community Surgery, Highfield House. Hospice, The Oaks Hospice, Sherrimore. Religion. The following denominations have places of worship in Elgin: Church of Scotland St Giles, High Street. St Columba's South Moss Street. Elgin High, North Giltree Street. Free Church of Scotland Free Church, South Street. Baptist Union of Scotland Elgin Baptist Church, Redhaven Street. Roman Catholic Church St Sylvester's, Institution Road. Scottish Episcopal Church Holy Trinity, Trinity Place. Other denominations: the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Pansport Road. Jehovah's Witnesses, Linkwood. Calvary Christian Life Centre, Lesmurdie Road. True Jesus Church, Lesmurdie Road. Pentecostal Church of God, New Elgin Hall Annex. Brethren, Riverside Gospel Hall, North Street. Culture and Leisure, Elgin Museum, 1 High Street. Elgin Library, Cooper Park. Elgin Golf Club, Hardhillock, Burney Road. Glass Green Golf Range, Burney Road. Cooper Park. Boating, Pitch and Putt, Tennis. Biblical Gardens, Moray Leisure Centre, Borough Briggs Road, containing swimming pool, ice rink and a gymnasium. Town Hall with auditorium for production of shows. Community Centre, Trinity Road. Badminton, The Lantern Gallery, 18 South Giltree Street. Red Shoes Theatre and Music Venue, High Street. Elgin Youth Cafe, Francis Place, Moray Jazz Club, ground floor of the Elgin City Football Club, Borough Briggs Road. Music. During the 1960s, the Beatles, The Who, Pink Floyd, Cream and Dusty Springfield all performed at the Two Red Shoes Dance Hall, and the Kinks played Elgin Town Hall. Oi Polloi performed at the Ocean Club on Batchen Street in April 2007, under a gazebo erected by local punks. Sport. Football formed in 1893. The town's only senior football club is Elgin City, who play at Borough Briggs Stadium. They entered the Highland Football League in 1895 and won the league championship 14 times. The club entered the Scottish Football League in season 2001 and currently compete in Division 3. The home colours are black and white vertical stripes, black shorts and white socks. Past famous players for Elgin City include Andy Gorham, Nicky Walker, Jimmy Johnston and John McGinley. Recently ex-Scotland players Brian Irvine and David Robertson have managed the club. Two junior football sides, Bishop Mill United and New Elgin, both currently compete in the Scottish Junior Football North Division 2, while Moray Social, Golden Pheasant FC, and Bishop Mill Villa participate in the Moray District Welfare Football Association. Rugby Union. Moray RFC was established in 1923 and play the home games at Morriston Playing Fields. Cricket. Elgin Cricket Club play home games on the Cooper Park cricket pitch under the auspices of North of Scotland Cricket Association. Ice hockey. Elgin is home to the Moray Typhoons ASNL team. They played their home games at the Moray Leisure Centre. Roller derby. The Elgin roller derby team trained regularly within Elgin. Twin Town.